Thanks for tuning into Know Wine in No Time. I'm your host Dave, and today we're going to explore the oldest vineyards in all of France, and that area is called the Northern Rhone River Valley. Now this is an area that's probably as harsh and rugged as any agricultural area in the entire world. It's made up of very, very steep slopes, and the grapes themselves, in order to survive, are actually trained or trellised into teepee-like structures that the French call chais. The reason being is there's a wind that comes off the Massif Central, the Central Mountains, and that wind blows so hard, so sustained, and so significantly that if we resorted to normal type of wire trellising, as the little tendrils would come off the main grapevine and the wind would blow, the vine would actually beat itself to death and actually dismember underneath that type of an area. The Northern Rhone is basically continental in climate. It has very harsh winters, but very, very warm summers. The main grapes in this particular area, on the red side, there's only one, and that's a grape called Syrah. In other parts of the world, we may call that Shiraz, and we'll get back to that in just a moment. On the white wine side, we actually have three grapes, the most important being Viognier, and then two subsidiary grapes, one called Rhone and one called Marsanne. So let's talk about how exactly grapes got to this inhospitable area. There's actually three different theories on how those grapes got here. And the first one, in 600 BC, the Greeks brought grapes to the Northern Rhone River Valley. And the grapes that they brought were actually transplanted from ancient Persia. And in Persia, the capital city of Persia is called Shiraz. So that grape that the French call Syrah actually kind of pays homage to some of its original roots in ancient Persia, where the capital was Shiraz. Another theory is that Romans brought Viognier, the main white grape, to this particular area from Syracuse in Sicily at about 200 AD. Now the third different theory is that some Syrah, or Shiraz, and some Viognier, and certainly Rhone and Marsanne, are native to this particular area. And as legend and lore has it, it's probably a little bit of all three. So what can you expect from wines from this particular area? Because of this inhospitable environment, these grapevines are maybe 2 or 3 feet above the ground, and the root system goes down about 50 feet in the ground. They're struggling to find moisture on the very steep slopes around the Rhone riverbank. And also, because of the wind, the yield is low, so the grape quality is extremely high. So when we look at white wines, wines that are Viognier, Rhone, and Marsanne from this particular area, they tend to be like, I would say, Chardonnay on steroids. Very good acidity, a nice glycerin content, so it feels kind of heavy and oily on the tongue. Beautiful fruit flavors, anywhere from tropical apricots, peaches, and mangoes to a little bit of green apple and pear type flavors. When we get over into the red side, Syrah is the dominant grape in this particular area and the only one allowed by law to be bottled in Northern Rhone. When we look at a Northern Rhone Syrah, we always think beautiful aromas of plum, a little bit of cherry, a little bit of raspberry in there, sometimes aromas of roasted meats in there as well. Very firm tannins, very full-bodied wines, and wines that pair well with a variety of foods. Let's talk about the different regions that you see in Northern Rhone, and working from the northern part of Northern Rhone to the southern part of Northern Rhone, we first come into the Côte Rôtie. And Côte Rôtie is all about Syrah, but to soften the Syrah ever so slightly, the Côte Rôtie allows up to 20% Viognier to be added to the blend to soften the Syrah just a little bit. Côte rôtie, translated from French to English, means the roasted slope, very steep slopes, and most of the vineyards will be facing the south or southwest in that particular area to capture as much of the sun as they possibly can. Working a little bit further south, we come into the town of Condrieu. And Condrieu is all about Viognier, and it's the only varietal allowed to be bottled in that particular area. Working further south, we come into Chateau Grelot, and Chateau Grelot is all about Viognier as well. When we get into the next three towns in northern Rhone, Saint-Joseph, Crozes-Hermitage, and Hermitage, it's all about Syrah on the red side and Roussanne and Marsanne on the white side. Working further south, we get into the town of Cornat, and Cornat is 100% Syrah. And the final appellation in northern Rhone is Saint-Péray. And Saint-Péray is a white wine appellation, just catering to Roussanne and Marsanne. Now, the information I just gave you is a lot of information, but it's kind of interesting to see that in a very short period, as a riverbank kind of flows east to west, different grapes are better established and grow better in different areas within a very short geography. So I brought today a Northern Rhone Syrah from the town of Cornat, and this particular wine comes to us from Mathieu Beret, and this is kind of a cute little image on the bottle. It's called Petit Ours, and Petit Ours is basically the little bear. This is 100% Syrah, and it's a 2014 vintage from the town of Cornat. So let's go ahead and take a look at the wine. If we look at it, this particular wine is completely opaque. We cannot see through it. On the edges, we're catching just a little bit of purplish ruby, but very, very dark, which is kind of an indication of what's to come on this wine. Now let's swirl to liberate some of the aromas. Across the nose, we smell very complex aromas of plum, raspberry. I'm getting a little bit of coffee, licorice, some fresh grilled meats, even a little bit of tobacco, almost like a little bit of a cigar box. Now let's go ahead and taste the wine. Now across the palate, this particular wine enters the mouth very dry. This is not confused with a fruity or fruit-forward type of style. This is a wine that tannin lovers will love. This is a wine that pairs very well with food. So when it enters the mouth, we're getting a little bit of that plum and raspberry flavors, but it very quickly fades into the gripping tannins that capture the sides and the back of the palate. The acidity is on point. This is a very acidic wine, which creates a tremendous amount of balance and age-worthiness. And overall, you kind of get an aftertaste of just a little bit of coffee and a little bit of tobacco. So what's the application for a Syrah from Northern Rhone? These wines pair very well with more gamey meats. So think lamb, think goat, think venison, things of that nature. These pair very well with that. Certainly it would go with a beef steak or any type of beef stew type of meals, but its specialty is pairing very well with gamey meats. So I'm going to enjoy a little bit more of the Little Bear from Cornat. Thanks for tuning in, and please tune in next time, because soon you'll know wine in no time.